Jeremy Lenz is the Director of Special Projects for the Puffin Foundation, and he's here to introduce our next honoree, Theodora Lacey. Jeremy?
Thank you, Esther. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight to introduce my friend, my mentor, my fellow community organizer, Theodora Smiley Lacey, or Theo, as we more affectionately call her. So in my role with the Puffin Foundation, I'm also executive director of the Teaneck International Film Festival. And I was asked to tell some anecdotes about Theo. And I recalled the first time that I met Theo was in 2010 when I took over the film festival. We were doing a film called Neshoba about the infamous Mississippi County where Andrew Goodman, Michael Schwerner, and James Chaney were murdered during the Freedom Summer of 1964. And we were organizing a panel with the filmmaker and the Andrew Goodman Foundation, and Gladys and Perry Rosenstein, the founders of the Puffin, approached me and they said, you need to reach out to Mrs. Lacey to be on this panel. And that was my first introduction to Theo, and I got to know a champion among civil rights legends who lived in my community of Teaneck, New Jersey. So I would go on to get to know her as a friend and find out that her father was on the board of directors that brought Martin Luther King to Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. She worked and organized in the Montgomery bus boycott. She moved to Teaneck, and she led the integration movement in Teaneck, New Jersey, which ultimately became the first township in the history of the United States that voted to voluntarily desegregate its public school system in the 1960s. And it goes on and on. Our film festival, the Teaneck International Film Festival, was also co-founded in partnership with two Black women's advocacy organizations, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women and the Links of Bergen County, who Theo was the founding chapter member. And we just celebrated our 50th anniversary of the Links chapter in Bergen County this year. And Theo was the founding president of that chapter, to be followed by Cory Booker's mother, our current New Jersey state senator, just to put it into perspective. She came aboard, she joined the TIF planning committee, and it was through her guidance that after we did Neshoba, we realized we are an activist community. We do the work of the Puffin that provides grant funding to so many marginalized groups, and we decided to establish our permanent theme of activism making change. And she has been on our board, who continues to guide us through so much. And ultimately, the work doesn't end. During COVID, I was asked to be a co-petitioner on a referendum to move our local council election from May to November. And Theo was the co-petitioner with the Senate Majority Leader of New Jersey, Loretta Weinberg, so I was in good company. Little did we know that we would go from petitioners to plaintiffs in a lawsuit, and ended up suing the township because of voter suppression. And we ultimately won the lawsuit and got the referendum on the ballot in Teaneck, New Jersey. And guess what? The ballot initiative won overwhelmingly. So I have been so blessed to be in the company of just such a great. And ultimately, Theo is someone who continues to make history. She's an activist in every decade of her life, continuing to do the work, and has given a life of service to her community, to her nation. And it is the greatest honor for me to be able to introduce her and to present my friend and my mentor with the Clara Lemlich Award. Thank you. Theo.
Oh my, Jeremy, you've given my speech. There's very little for me to say, except First of all, I'd like to congratulate the Clara Lemlich family for continuing to perpetuate the ideas of peace and understanding and appreciation of one another. You know, you have to be a part of it if you want to see change, if you want things to be different, if you truly believe that we are all humankind, then you have to be a part of it. This ceremony helps to continue that kind of thinking. I am awed sitting here on the stage with these wonderful people. I had to pinch myself and said, I'm not sure I really belong here. But it is so inspiring to see women who have through the decades given their time and energy to make a difference. If you read a little about my bio, you know that I'm a long, long way from home, Montgomery, Alabama. Beautiful town, city, the capital of the state. But there was a very dark side to Montgomery that was filled with prejudice and discrimination. I was not allowed to play in the public parks or to attend in a school that I would like to, public school that I would like to, because of segregation. You know the story of the Montgomery bus boycott. I could cite many instances of people being arrested and abused just for taking a seat on the bus. You see, there was always an attempt to make you feel that you were inferior just because of the color of your skin. I am so fortunate that I grew up in a family that taught me that no matter what others say negatively about you, learn as much as you can and store it in your mind, because one of these days you're going to be able to go in a department store, try on clothes, not have your mother take the shape of your foot to buy your shoes because you couldn't sit to have to buy new shoes, that you are going to be able to do many things. Said that people, you must learn to appreciate people, even those who seem to be determined to make you feel inferior. Because when you grow up and you learn and you vote, you're going to help to put people in office who can make a change. Well, I'm not sure I understood any of that growing up, but I was fortunate enough to live long enough to see that kind of change. Montgomery, as I said, the capital of the state, I could not go into the judicial building, not even the Capitol ground. Well, I stand here today to say that I cannot count on one hand the number of my relatives that are lawyers and judges and making a change in the South, throughout the South. Sometimes the struggle seems endless, and that there is no hope. But for all the young activists here today, I can assure you that with struggle there comes change. Be persistent, be a part of the action, and do what you can. Fortunately, I was able to move from Montgomery, the segregated, discriminating town, to New York City. The last time I saw my friend Martin Luther King was in New Jersey, and he teased me about having abandoned the South and come to the North. I assured him that there was plenty of discriminating. The signs were not as large and visible, but the methods and the attitudes and behavior was there. And so while I fell in love with the quaint town called Teaneck, there were also problems there as well, and immediately became involved in fair housing, and as Jeremy indicated, in helping to desegregate the school system due to housing patterns, not signs or laws on the books that said you could not live in certain areas, but that there were underlying methods that were used to make sure that if you were a color, you only could live in a certain area. And because of that, the schools in the predominantly African-American section of town became increasingly less as academically and economically affordable as the other neighborhood schools. So we worked very hard to make that change. Change is something that comes about if you're willing to give the time to do it. I am so proud to be a part of organizing a group called Teens Talk About Racism, because our young people are the ones who are going to make that kind of change. In closing, I'd like to say that I learned so much from my family and my neighbors and friends, but Martin Luther King taught me that the most urgent and persistent question is, what have you done for others? And so I have tried to spend my life doing what I can to make change, to bring about peace and understanding among all people. Thank you so much for this prestigious